So hello and welcome back to the Home Wood Shop. Today we're going to do a bit more of a tutorial, and it's going to be a how-to on making these interlocking half lap joints. So on my bed frame, which we're in the middle of, we have pretty much, well, the entire thing's lap joints. And we'll have some tendon and mortise later, but these are lap joints, and I figured I'd show you how we actually do these. So on both sides I have lap joints. These, you can do it with just a single one, you can do it with multiple, you can do, there's thousands of little variations you can do. But these are just half lap joints, where you cut half on one side, you cut half on the second board, and that's all there is to it. So we're going to do that. We have our board here and our board here. We want to make them interlocking. That way it can't go any way. So that way it can't go left, right, can't fall over, etc. These are actually pretty strong, so let's move over there. Okay, so we're going to put this guy in the vise, and we're going to grab our square, which we're going to need a second, and our, I guess, marking blade, and do 58 7/8 of an inch. Put a little mark there. So we measured that to the inside, and of course we always double check. So now that I've double checked, 58 7/8 is in fact my measurement. Losing my tools. Okay, so 58 7/8 is where we are going to make our joint. Now from there, we need to go over 1 more inch. Yeah, we're just gonna use a tape measure. Actually, this will do just fine. Middle of the number there, middle of the number there. So we use our square to get the lines, square. Alright, the next thing we have to do is we've got to copy this down half the length of the board. So this is a 6-inch thick board, so we need to cut 3 inches down. So we're going to make a line. We're going to come down to 3 inches. I'm going to copy this down, bring this down 3 inches. Yeah. And the side's not always square, but I found that it makes a decent guide as to how deep I need to go. So now we have to cut that out. So for that, we're going to use a couple of tools to do so. These are pretty much 3 tools we're going to need to actually make the cut. This one is a beautiful little saw. The reason we use this instead of one of my other ones is because it does not have anything on the back. That way I can cut all the way through 3 inches without hitting something halfway through like all my other saws would. The other ones have a rigid blade, which means you can get a little bit more straightness out of it, whereas this one, it can flex a little bit, and that makes it really hard to get the straight cut that way. But that is where we'll start. We're going to start with the, I don't know which saw this is actually called, but I love it. I use it all the time. We're going to use it again. So a little trick is to put your finger here, so you line up your blade. Put your finger there as a guide, that way you can push up against it, and you push first. Then you can pull and actually get to cutting. So you want to be following this line that we just made. Now, you can cut on the line, you can leave the line, or you can take the line. All 3 of those will give you a different size cut. I measured mine for exact, which means I need to be exactly on this line to actually get the cut that I need. But after the cut, I've got to say this is a 1/16 of an inch blade. I've got to make sure that when I take my cut, it's only cutting the exact line. Because if I put it exactly on the line, it'll take a 30-second on the right, and it'll take a 30-second on the left, and it'll be slightly bigger than what I need. So we're going to cut exactly on the line all the way down. And yeah. Usually I'll use the fine tooth to get it started, and then I'll use the larger tooth to keep it going. The fine tooth just gives me a better start. We wanted to slow down when we got to the end there, that way we didn't overcut. Use my fingernail to hold the blade there. Push up against the blade and my fingernail. Cool. So now I've got my mark here. We've cut pretty much all the way down. Don't scoot over any, that's not helpful. I need it to scoot. So now that we've got this guy cut down, take him out. Okay, so we're going to take this chisel, which is the exact width. I'm gonna put it at the tip. We're not going all the way through, we just want to mark it. That way we don't have a blowout on this side. Then we're going to take our piece of wood, flip it over, line it up. We're going to mark on this side as well. But this side we're going all the way through. Now with a normal chisel, it has this nice little angle. But we would like a little bit more. We can get through like this, but because of that rake, it's going to shove the chisel further and further back instead of giving us this nice little pressure for a wedge to shove that piece out. So you can do it that way, but I like to use this mortising chisel where you just line it up with your hole that you already made. Now we made all those lines so that it'll break on those lines. We line that up, give it a couple smacks, and it goes straight through. The fact this wedge pops straight out means one of two things. Either we cut it so that the hole is slightly tapered in at the bottom and it can pop out all the way versus getting larger and larger as we went down, or it's pretty much perfectly straight. And if we put this up at the top, the bottom is slightly smaller than the top is. That's not a bad thing, we just need to do the fitting later. Okay, so we are back over here, and ideally this would just slot right in. But when I made these boards, I made them slightly undersized so that I could clean them up later. That was a bit of a mistake. I wish I had not, but I had never done this before, so you live and learn. But to clean this guy up, I like to take my file and just run it along the bottom. That'll square it up, get rid of any harsh edges, all those good things that we don't want. So the next thing we do, that'll slot in there nicely and line up here. So we scoot it back and we can see that we don't need to go back that far. Maybe a 32nd of an inch, this hole needs to get just that much wider. So we are going to slide this back and out of the way. And because this is kind of some precision fine work instead of a little bit of a heavier cut, and we only need a 32nd of an inch, we're going to do it with this file. If it was more than a 32nd of an inch, we could have used a saw and actually just expanded it. But because we only need this much, we're going to start filing it. Okay, so we've done a little bit of filing. We're going to slide this guy back over and see we need just a little bit more. Yep, just a little more. Try it again. Ooh, it just started to fit. So we are really close. They are super close. Ooh, the top is very, very close. So we put it in there and we can visually look and see if our lines are square. We can see where it's starting to catch, which is really high, so we actually need to keep doing the entire thing. I'll bring you guys over so you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, now you can see what we're doing. But we need to take off just a little more. And we test fit again. Very close, we gotta get the bottom, we can look at it. See that it's this side that's off slightly. So it's this side we gotta work on. Test it again. It goes almost all the way to the bottom, so a little bit more. But I suspect we have a little bit of twisting. It's pretty tight on the right side, and it's pretty tight on the left side here, so it's twisted slightly to the left, or a cut is. The board could be too, which is another problem. because when we flip it, our cuts or our angle's going to be reversed, so we're going to have to compensate for that later. So we'll square this up and test it again. There's a lot of very precise tests, make sure it fits. And we are to the point where we have a bit of stick up. That's bad. Because when we flip this over and stick it in, these two aren't going to meet. So we look, we see it's about a pinky height. So we're going to take our saw, and I actually prefer this little guy for this, but we're going to take our saw, we're going to make a small cut down here. We need that to be the same depth that this one does not stick up. So this one's stuck up about a pinky, we got to take off about a pinky off the bottom. Whew, dusty. Should not have blown on that. You want both cuts to be about even. So the next thing we got to do is we got to hammer that out. So, okay, I need the hammer. So we're gonna again take the chisel. We're gonna line up our marks, or our cuts. Wish there wasn't a board in the way. We're gonna put that little indent in there so that it doesn't explode out the back. We're gonna put it on this side as well. And it just pops out. Now, without that little line on the back, it would have exploded and it could have actually taken a huge chunk more, it could have taken a huge chunk less, it could have gone right, left. It could have splintered in a whole lot of really bad ways. So you really need that first mark there to get it square. So, because we used the chisel and we actually cut something out, we could use the chisel again to square it up. I'm liking the file, personal opinion. That'll give us a nice flat bottom. Pull this guy up. Still won't fit all the way down. So we gotta look at it, and it's the bottom left. It's actually touching. Slide this guy out, fill up the file, shave. All right, we shaved a little bit off. Now we gotta test, and it fits perfectly flush right here. That is beautiful, that's exactly what we want. But now comes the hard part. We gotta make sure this is going to fit around the other piece. So we look at it, and it's gonna be super close. So now we test fit this again. Almost. So we look and we see that it's the top of this guy that doesn't quite fit. Yeah. Because of all the tight fits, it eventually just kind of gets hard to keep them, or to get them in and out easily. So, we're gonna clean up these edges and try again. So if you remember me saying at the beginning that this is kind of a V where the bottom is smaller than the top, that's what causes that. So we're gonna put this in. It fits all the way, nice and flush. There you go. That is how we make a lap joint, and there you go. So I hope you guys found this informative, good way of how to fit and how to get these guys nice and flush. Thanks for joining along. I hope you learned something. We'll see you in the next episode.